Hello, and welcome to the 741 channel. Thank you for stopping by. Today, we're going to be taking a look at my Drake PS7 power supply. Now, those of you who follow my channel will know that I recently acquired this Drake station from Don, W1FYG, who in turn acquired it from a Silent Key, George Smith, KD1FN. So when I first got everything, I hooked it up, checked it out, and it all seems to work for the most part. The radio needs a little bit of help, but everything else seems like it's okay. I have no reason to believe that there's anything wrong with the power supply today, but I want to go through and clean it up thoroughly, take the cover off, look inside, clean out any dust and dirt that might have built up in there, and just do a general inspection of the components, especially the electrolytic capacitors. An old item like this, electrolytic capacitors are always suspect. And not always, but sometimes you can tell if they're getting ready to fail by looking at them physically. Sometimes they'll bulge a little bit, or maybe they'll show some signs of leakage. So we want to look for that. And I may also try and do some tests with the oscilloscope and look for ripple voltage and things like that. If I see any signs of failing capacitors, or we see any signs of AC voltage on the oscilloscope, then what I think I'll do is start thinking about replacing components. But anyway, I'm going to get the camera over closer to the power supply and we'll dig in and see what we're working with. So before we dig into the power supply and pull the cover off, we'll just take a quick look at the outside. You can see there's nothing remarkable on the front other than this carrying handle. Now this thing does weigh 32 pounds, so if you were going to carry it around, I suppose this would come in handy. If we spin it around and take a look at the side, you can see that we're dealing with one kind of big heatsink. And then here and here are the two pass transistors. And they actually have plastic covers over top of them, so you don't see the transistor itself. Usually on a power supply, you just see the bare transistor body. But Drake went to the trouble to put these plastic covers on these to match the black color of the heatsink, I guess. So on the back of the power supply is where everything is happening. Over here, of course, is the cooling fan, and this is a 110 volt fan that actually plugs into a receptacle that's below the fan. And then over here we have some switches to allow the power supply to be run on 240 volt 50 hertz. And then there's sort of an interlock plate there so that once you get this set where you want it, you can't accidentally move the switches and have a problem. Down here is a receptacle for a Vox relay, and then a couple of more receptacles. One is for 13.8 volts out, and the other one is for ALC control. This, of course, is the ground stud. This is a fuse holder for the AC mains fuse. And then, of course, we have all the wires coming out. I have them all bundled up here now, but one of them is, of course, the AC mains. This one is the 13.8 volt DC connector for the radio. And then this one is the control cable that goes into the radio. And then if I flip it up, we'll just take a quick look at the bottom. You can see we've got a vented plate here, some feet, and that's pretty much it. Looks like there's just 6 screws that hold on the top cover, and we should be able to see what's inside. So let's pull those off. So let's take a look inside the power supply. Now you may be able to tell it's fairly clean in here. There's a little bit of dust on some of this stuff, but it's actually not too bad. Before I take it outside and blow it out with some compressed air, let's just take a look at the main components here. Now, first up, of course, is the main transformer. Now, they don't make transformers like this anymore. Well, they probably do, but they cost a ton of money, which is why most of the power supplies you see today are switch mode power supplies, because those require much, much, much smaller transformers for the same amount of power. Back here, we've got a couple of pretty big electrolytic capacitors. You can see there's a piece of insulating paper here to insulate those terminals from the cover, so that when the cover's on, it doesn't short out to the terminal. And then over here, I think this is the main bridge rectifier back here. Then there's some other handful of components, some EMI chokes, and then all the wiring to the output connectors over here. And then, of course, on the sides over here on either side, you can see we have some beefy wire going to each of the pass transistors. And then over here we have the main regulator board. I really can't get down in there and let you guys have a good look at it because the side of the power supply is right here. But there's a handful of components on here, including a regulator chip. Now I forget which is which, but these two controls are used for adjusting the voltage and current output of the power supply. So like I said, overall, pretty beefy construction. and this thing is in pretty good shape. Now since I got the cover off and we're looking at it in here, I'm going to take this thing outside, get some compressed air, and just blow all the dust out of here while I can. Now that I've got all the dust blown out of the power supply and had a chance to really get in there and look closely at all of the components, everything looks really good in there for a 40-year-old radio. Some of the components look like they're still brand new. Now, looks can be deceiving, especially with old electronics, and just because some of these parts look okay doesn't mean that they're actually functioning okay. So some people might go ahead and just automatically replace things that are prone to failure, like the electrolytic capacitors. But I'm of the opinion of not fixing something if it's not broken. So since this thing is powering the radio without any issues right now, there's no hums on the radio or no other indications that seem to point to any problems with the power supply, I think I'm going to leave it alone. But what I am going to do is hook it up and double check the voltage that it's putting out. Make sure it's putting out 13.8, or I think 13.6 is really what this is supposed to put out. So we'll check for that. And then what I think I'll do is hook it up to the scope and see if we can measure any ripple voltage on the output. And what that'll do is tell us whether or not the filter capacitors, at least, are doing their job. If we're seeing a significant amount of ripple, that may change my mind and I might start thinking about recapping things in here. But if it looks pretty flat, I think we'll leave it alone. Anyway, let's get it on a meter and see what it's doing. So I've got the radio over here now, because in order to turn the power supply on, the radio needs to be connected and actually turned on. Now if you remember from the power supply, there's a control cable and a 13.8 volt power cable. I've only got the control cable plugged into the radio right now, so the radio itself won't actually turn on. We're just using the switch on the radio to enable the power supply. If I studied the schematic a little bit longer, I might be able to figure out a way to trick the power supply into turning on without the radio, but for right now this was the quickest, easiest way to test it out. So I've got my trusty old Radio Shack meter set up here and set to 40 volts. I'll put the probes in the cinch plug here and we'll check the voltage. And hopefully you can see in the meter there we're getting 13.62 volts. According to the manual, it should be putting out 13.6 volts. So I think we're good to go. So what I'll do now is connect up my old oscilloscope and see if we can detect any ripple voltage. So as you can see, I've got my oscilloscope set up. I'm going to apologize, it's a little hard to see because the screen is flashing, but I think you'll still be able to get the idea as to what's going on here. So what we're looking at now is the ripple voltage. And you can see there's a bit of a waveform there, but it's really not that much. The way the scope is set up right now, each one of these divisions is equal to 2.5 millivolts. And I know it's a little hard to see because of the flashing screen, but the ripple voltage is hovering right around 2 millivolts or so. So that's actually pretty good. That's what you'd expect from a power supply like this. And it's actually right in line with what the manual states, which is no greater than 3 millivolts ripple. So we're doing okay. So now that I've got the radio cleaned up inside and kind of checked out electrically, the next thing I need to do is figure out a modification that was made to this control cable at some point in this power supply's past. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. I'll zoom in a little bit closer in a minute, but in the end of this cinch plug, there are two nails poked in to the end of the housing here. And then in addition to that, there are two wires kind of coming out of the plug here in the back, and they go off to these RCA cables. So the nails are definitely not factory, and I see no mention of these RCA cables in the manual either. So I think what I need to do is pull this shroud off of here and look inside and see how this thing is all connected up. So here's a closer look at those two nails that are poked in the end of the plug here. What I'm going to do is remove the screws from this strain relief here, and then hopefully this whole shroud will pull back. We can see what's going on in there. Okay, so I've got the strain relief off, but the shroud is not moving because I think the nails are pinning the shroud to the plug body itself. I'm probably going to regret this, but I'm going to try and pull these nails out of here so that I can see what's going on in there. I suppose if I end up ruining this plug, I can always order a new one. Not a big deal. So it looks like the function of the nails was to just hold the connector together. Now, you guys may not be able to see everything that's going on in this connector, but what's happened is many of the wires that go in this cable back to the power supply have actually been cut and are just kind of sitting in there unterminated. And it looks like these little coaxial cables that are hooked up to the RCA plugs are connected up to the ALC output and the amplifier key pin. So I think probably what happened is somebody was using another amplifier, a non-Drake amplifier, with the radio and power supply at one point in the past. Not sure if that would have been George or not, or maybe George bought this from somebody else who had it set up that way. And I guess the nails were there just to hold the connector together. I guess the normal shroud clamps here just weren't doing a good enough job anymore, so somebody drilled a couple of holes and press fit these twist nails in there. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but these nails have sort of a smooth part at the end, and then there's a twist sort of near the top. These are probably some kind of flooring nail or something. They're made to kind of drive in but not work themselves back out. Now that I've got that all figured out, I'm just going to put this connector back together and kind of leave it like it was, I guess. So instead of putting these nails back in the connector, what I did is I went through my collection of junk screws and I found 4 thread-forming screws that fit in the holes just perfectly. So I was able to kind of screw those in and tap some threads as I went, and that ought to hold it. Now I don't have these kind of nail heads sticking out or run the risk of these things actually falling out. So that's almost it for the power supply. The only thing I have left to do is just sort of do some fine cleaning on it that I want to do. The case and the face of it really aren't dirty at all, but I'll probably go over it with some mild detergent just to say that I did. And then the wires themselves, though, have sort of like that black cakey crud on them. I'm going to take some degreaser like Simple Green or something like that and just clean those wires to get the gunk off of them. And then I think I'll be all set. Now, since there's really not a whole lot interesting about cleaning wires, I'm not going to make you guys sit through that part. I'll wrap the video up here. So the next video in this series will cover the radio itself. Now, I showed in the first video that the radio works okay, but there's a few little problems that need to be cleaned up, and one bigger one with the AM modulation. But based on some comments I got on that first video, I think I have an idea of what might be going on, and it may not actually be a real problem. But we'll pull the cover off, take a look inside, see how things look, and take it from there. So stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to leave a comment or subscribe, feel free to do that as well. If you'd like to support my channel in another way, please consider visiting my Amazon store, which is linked in the description below. Thanks for watching.